when you live with a constant complainer on the next Oprah.
Join me weekdays at 4 on CFCF 12.
A high school reunion, a kiss, and obsessive love, out of control.
I know she cares for you, Jeff, your old friends. But she doesn't love you, if that's what you think.
Know about her?
She's my wife, I know.
You and I are not meant to be.
Don't say that.
Michael Onkeen, Karen Allen, Rapture.
Jeff, let me go.
Rapture, Wednesday at 9 on CFCF 12. If only he would listen to the warnings. If only he could see how drug abuse is hurting him and his family. If only he'd admit he has a drug problem. He'll have come to his senses in time.
Star Trek Deep Space Nine, tonight at 8 on CFCF 12.
Good evening. Mitsumi is off today, and on what amounts to a busy news day, here are some of the stories we're following. Environmental public hearings have ended with rejection of a project to build a huge incinerator in East End, Montreal, a major blow to Montreal's Waste Management Board. The search continues for a light aircraft and its pilot in the dense mountains of New Hampshire. François Tissier left Montreal 5 days ago en route to Portland, Maine. And a $92 million contract has been awarded to Spar Aerospace in St. Anne de Bellevue. It will preserve 100 high-tech jobs at the company hit recently by layoffs. But first, the ongoing rampage of the Mississippi. An Illinois town and far more Missouri farmland is underwater. In St. Louis, thousands of residents forced to flee as fears grew of a major propane explosion. Charles Thomas is standing by live in St. Louis.
As far as the St. Louis area is concerned, these last 24 hours have been the most dangerous and difficult since the flood emergency began here over a month ago. Nearly 10,000 people have been evacuated, and behind me you'll see no less than 12 fire trucks on standby because of a flooded propane tank farm in Lemay, Missouri. The 51 tanks normally sit on dry land along the banks of the River Des Peres. The flood has lifted them off their concrete supports, and now they float like steel balloons filled with highly explosive gas.
Residents should carry with them any medication they are presently taking. Any persons able to use their own transportation are encouraged to do so. Anyone having friends or relatives to stay with are asked to consider that.
The evacuees began moving at dawn from 3,000 homes and 400 businesses. Some will spend the day and perhaps tonight in Red Cross emergency shelters.
8 o'clock, they came to the door of the National Guard and told us we had to evacuate. And I said, this is crazy. Why do we have to evacuate? He said, because if those tanks blow, it's going to come up in our house and around our house, and it's going to blow.
What I heard is they're trying to take care of the tanks, but now the divers are afraid to go down and do what they were supposed to do.
This morning, the St. Louis riverfront was missing 3 attractions. Last night, a Burger King restaurant, a World War II museum ship, and a helipad were ripped from their moorings by the raging Mississippi. The restaurant crashed into the Poplar Street Bridge and shut the span for 2 hours.
It was unbelievable. I never heard anything like that before. It was so loud that, I was, eighth of a mile away, and it sounded just like, your furniture breaking in your own home. I mean, it was that loud. It sounded like it was right next to me, but it was every bit as terrifying as anything I've ever seen.
Despite the crest, the water line on the flood wall protecting downtown St. Louis appeared lower. But the pressure was less here only because of new levee breaks elsewhere. More houses were flooded or threatened today in Alton, Illinois, where the water plant is shut down, and in St. Charles, Missouri, where residents continued sandbagging to save each other's homes.
But I'm going to tell you something, it's some fantastic people. Really did.
Here in Lemay, the evacuation order will remain in effect at least overnight. Also, a curfew has been imposed. Anyone found inside the evacuated area after dark will be arrested. Reporting live from Lemay, Missouri, Charles Thomas for ABC News. Back to you.
Thank you very much, Charles. Here at home, Montreal's Intermunicipal Waste Management Board suffered a major blow this morning. Environmental public hearings rejected that widely publicized project to build a huge incinerator in the east end of the city. Anne Chatilla reports.
26 mayors favored the idea of a huge incinerator in East End, Montreal. The public wasn't so sure. So public hearings were held. Objections were numerous from environmental groups. They said the incinerator was just too big and wouldn't recycle and compost enough. Today, the final report from the public hearings came out. It agrees. The project is too expensive and doesn't give enough responsibility to citizens. The president of the Environmental Hearings Bureau says it's a waste of energy for the suburbs to go it alone with their mega incinerator.
In fact, the project, we think, should be reevaluated, within a waste management plan for the whole island of Montreal. So discussion should be held with Montreal. And
Pierre Coderre does admit some parts of the waste management plan could begin right away, such as the composting station. But something like garbage elimination must be looked at again. Bruce Walker of the environmental group STOP is delighted with the report. He agrees Montreal and the municipalities must sit down and talk again to find a waste disposal solution.
The suburban municipalities and the City of Montreal should work together in a coordinated waste management collection, reduction and disposal system rather than having two opposing systems.
Environment Minister Pierre Paradis will now look over the report and make recommendations to the government. But we still may have to pay a penalty of $2.5 million even if we don't build the incinerator. The New Jersey engineering firm hired to build it had that as a stipulation when the contract was signed last December. Anne Chatilla, Pulse News.
Joining me is Alan D'Souza, the city councillor with Saint Laurent, who, as I understand, it's opposed the incinerator right from the start. Mr. D'Souza, now that this has a thumbs down, essentially, from the public hearings, the environmental hearings, where does the entire thing go from here?
There's no other choice for the mayors but to go back and to the regime and to relook at the whole project. The BAP hearings and the BAP report have pretty much rejected the entire project on many, many counts, environmentally, economically, and perhaps very interestingly enough, also that they asked that each municipality be given a chance to ratify any proposal. So for the mayors, it's a move back to the drawing board and back to their respective councils where they should have been listening to in the past.
But does Mr. Paradis, the Minister of the Environment, does he in fact have the final say? I mean, what if he overrules all of this stuff?
Mr. Paradis does have the final say, but given the extent of the BAP report, the fact that it pretty much overwhelmingly rejected the project on many fronts, Mr. Paradis will be hard-pressed to push the report and to push the project against the will of the public and against the decision of his own environmental hearings group.
In an era, Mr. D'Souza, where almost everything is recyclable, why would the city and the various municipalities even have considered this project in the beginning?
Well, I think it's just a case that they have not yet come to terms of what the era of recycling is all about. And I think that's where they're going to have to concentrate on first, to make sure that before they even consider a project where incineration is involved, that they have satisfied themselves that they can reduce, they can recycle, they can reuse as much of the waste produced by our citizens, and then they can look at incineration perhaps as a final, last alternative. But up to now, they haven't even got to step one, and that's where they've got to go back to step one.
I'm Cynthia Drummond. Later on Pulse, meet RadarSat, a $92 million shot in the arm for Spar Aerospace.
The search continues tonight for a light aircraft and its pilot, who have been missing for 5 days now. Francois Tissier disappeared on his way to Portland, Maine. But as Pulse's Joe Singerman reports, the search is focusing on a mountainous area of the state of New Hampshire.
Last week, 39-year-old Francois Tissier, son of Quebec television personality Michel Tissier, took off from St. Hubert Airport in a single-engine Piper aircraft. His journey to Portland, Maine was supposed to last 2 hours, but he and his plane were never seen again. The search and rescue operation is being coordinated by 424 Squadron from Trenton, Ontario. Canadian Forces aircraft and personnel are landing and taking off at St. Hubert, and there's renewed hope that the pilot will be found.
Yesterday evening, we received an emergency locator transmitter beep, which is basically a signal emitted from an emergency locator transmitter, which should be on an airplane. That has gone down. We got that intermittently last night, and then we lost it, and then we got it again this morning.
The emergency transmitter signal came from a mountainous area near Berlin, New Hampshire. That's now the primary search area. But the pilot's last known radar position was received 9 kilometers southeast of Brome Lake in the eastern townships.
It just means that that was where the last radar tracked the aircraft. There's no indication that the aircraft was in distress at the time.
Searchers are checking out some 30 aircraft sighting reports in the area and reports of loud noises. The Canadian Armed Forces is being assisted by the Civilian Air Patrol in the United States and Sauvetage et Recherche Aérienne du Québec, a group of Quebec volunteers and pilots. The search in Quebec and the U.S. continues despite some bad weather over the mountains of New Hampshire. Joe Singerman, Pulse News, St. Hubert.
Now, it's a major but invisible medical problem. It's called chronic sleep deprivation. Today, Pulse medical reporter Howard Schwartz begins a 2-part series on sleep disorders. What causes them? How to correct them?
About a third of the average person's life is spent asleep. It is one of the most natural functions of the human body, and it is one of the most easily disturbed. Experts in the field say many people suffer from sleep problems and don't even know it, nor do they appreciate the consequences of lack of sleep.
Studies have been done that show that about a third of the population complain of sleep problems, and about half of those people regard the problem as being serious. And we now have evidence that shows that people do have problems in terms of memory, concentration, tiredness, fatigue, performance problems during the day, and also sleep problems interrupt interpersonal relationships. And these are things that most people are not going to volunteer readily, even though they may be occurring.
Sleep cycles are disturbed by medical problems, stress, and lifestyle. Shift work disrupts the body's internal clock. People who stay up all night to play or work upset their body's internal timing systems. The result is decreased alertness and performance. At the Montreal General Hospital, intensive care nurse Jody Sutherland can begin work at 8 in the morning, 4 in the afternoon, or at midnight on different days of the same week.
If you work night shift, your concentration between the hours of, say, 4 and 5 in the morning is very, very low. Yeah. You come on and you're all right, you've slept all day, but between 4 and 5, you're going down.
That awful feeling, particularly at 3, 4, 5 o'clock in the morning, when many shift workers describe this as hitting the wall, when they just think that they can't possibly stay awake any longer. And then there's usually a second wind that occurs after that. That second wind represents when the timing system in the brain is starting to gear them up for wakefulness. And of course, that's around the time that they're about to go home and try to go to bed.
Dr. Seisler says ignoring the body clock over the long term means inviting disaster. But that clock can be reprogrammed, and there are new medications and treatments to help cure sleep disorders. We'll tell you more about that in part 2 of our series. I'm Howard Schwartz with the Pulse Medical Report.
International markets are abuzz today with word that the European community has backed down on semi-fixed exchange rates. More on that and other stories coming up.
Our McLobster is filled with big, tender chunks of Atlantic lobster. This is one sandwich that's bound to please everyone. Well, almost everyone.
At McDonald's today.
Mont Blanc, available at Moselle, 4050 Jean Talon West.
At most schools, it takes 3 years to get a professional studies diploma. But at Aviron, it takes just 1 year. Plus, the practical training at Aviron is worth 1 year's experience on the job. Choose from various specialized day or evening courses. This year, Aviron is new and improved. New location, new larger premises, more new technical equipment, and new improved training programs. Inquire about our financial aid and placement assistance. Our orientation counselors are waiting. Enroll now. Call 935-2525.
The gloves are coming off. Now you can fight greasy pots and pans with Ivory Clear. Ivory is clinically tested to be mild on hands, yet it's tough on grease. Ivory's targeted grease cleaners attack the grease on your dishes, but not the natural oils in your skin. Fight grease with your bare hands and win with Ivory Clear. Original Ivory still available.
Eggshells, like teeth, must retain calcium to stay strong. To demonstrate how Crest's formula protects teeth, we treated half this egg with regular Crest, the other half without. The egg is exposed to a weak acid solution similar to that which causes cavities. Crest's side remains hard, having locked in the calcium. The other side is weak, having lost its calcium. The egg test shows it. Crest locks in calcium to help lock out cavities.
When you hear the word liquidation, you will be immediately reminded of the Sentra, the Ultima, the Maxima, the Pathfinder, and the 5.8% financing deal guaranteed for 48 months. Liquidation, liquidation, liquidation. When you return to consciousness, you will experience an irresistible urge to see your swell, your really swell, your really, really swell Nissan dealer.
Spar Aerospace in St. Anne de Bellevue has won a huge $92 million contract to complete the RadarSat satellite. That's the deal that's going to preserve 100 high-tech jobs at Spar that's been hit recently by layoffs. We get more from Cynthia Drummond.
This is RadarSat. It is unique in the world for two reasons: the clarity of the images it produces and its movable antenna, which can be aimed to survey different zones. RadarSat will observe the Earth, and its data will be used by Canada and other countries for resource management and environmental monitoring. RadarSat has been under development at Spar Aerospace for about 3 years, with scientific and technological input from corporations across Canada and overseas. The total cost of the project is about $575 million. Flanked by officials from Quebec, the Canadian Space Agency, and Spar, Science Minister Robert Nicholson announced that Spar will receive $92 million for the final construction phase of RadarSat. The contract enables Spar to retain 100 employees who might otherwise have faced layoffs, and it may mean more aerospace jobs in the future.
Obviously, down the road, we're hoping that both the data application part as well as follow-on satellites will mean long-term stability for engineers and scientists here at Spar.
RadarSat will be launched in 1995 on a NASA Delta II rocket. The satellite will transmit data back to Earth for 5 years. Investors in RadarSat aren't expecting profits right away, but they say the market for the data is developing quickly, and the long-term economic benefits of RadarSat could be immense. Cynthia Drummond, Pulse News.
In Ontario, government talks with angry civil servants have ended. Deals have been reached, and they could affect all 900,000 public sector workers there. Leon Carby reports.
The largest labor negotiation in Canadian history started 150 days ago. The goal, cut up to $2 billion out of the public service payroll. This afternoon, Ontario's Finance Minister Floyd Loughran announced the talks are over and Queen's Park will reach its financial target.
I am pleased to say that all told, there were agreements reached in every sector. Almost 900,000 workers will be covered by agreements reached.
That includes everyone from teachers to public servants to police. But the agreements can only be described as blueprints, outlining what the options are for cutting payrolls. Each local employer and union must still use the blueprints to decide how their own cuts will be implemented. Those who don't reach a deal will have cost-cutting measures imposed on them by the province. Measures that include unpaid days off and a 3-year wage freeze. While this affects public sector workers, there are already warnings that as a result of the cuts, some services will have to be reduced, affecting all Ontarians. The social contract talks have been vehemently opposed by the unions. Some signed anyway, saying it was the best of a number of bad alternatives. But their bitterness towards Bob Rae's government is deep.
I can't swear on TV, so I will just say that the feeling of betrayal is profound. The feeling of bitterness is profound.
Politicians of all stripes are the same. Like we felt that the NDP might have been different. They've proven to us they're no different. Parties in opposition.
While the NDP government may reach its cost-cutting targets, it has created another major problem for the party. Relations with its longtime Labour allies are at an all-time low, and that does not bode well for Bob Rae come the next election. Leon Corby of Bayton Broadcasting, Toronto.
One reason the Canadian economy is still floundering despite some of the bright spots like the SPAR contract is its increasing reliance on international financial conditions. Today those conditions got a whole lot worse, at least as far as Europe is concerned. At a meeting in Brussels, the European community in effect admitted defeat at the hands of international money markets. As George Wolfe reports from London, the community agreed to relax its system of semi-fixed exchange rates. The alternative was to see the entire system collapse.
Trying desperately to save face, French Prime Minister Edouard Balladur declared Europe is now safe. After a weekend of crisis talks, Balladur claimed the European monetary system had been saved. But that's not what the money market said. Currency traders hammered the French franc and other currencies in the exchange rate mechanism, the ERM.
Oh, the ERM is completely dead. It exists in form only.
The ERM, which politicians had labored through the weekend to save, was a system to stabilize and eventually unify a number of European currencies. The value of currencies had been permitted to move only in narrow ranges, variations which were limited to as little as 2.25%. The new rules allow currencies to fluctuate in value widely by as much as 15%.
15% fluctuation band for all ERM currencies.
Traders took one look at the new rules and decided that most European currencies had effectively been allowed to float. If they're right, if European exchange rates are no longer tied closely together, then the idea of European monetary union seems like a pipe dream.
The idea of a single currency is dead. I believe that the part of the Maastricht Treaty that refers to a single currency is now redundant.
At the European Community headquarters in Brussels, there is reported to be deep gloom about the future of European Union. Even supporters of the Maastricht Treaty, which is designed to unify Europe, say a single currency is vital.
If we are going to have a single market in Europe, which will benefit the people of Europe, then we've got to have a single currency.
But Britain's current Prime Minister, John Major, says the timetable for economic and monetary union by the end of the century looks totally unrealistic. As currencies fluctuate wildly, French newspapers are asking, is Europe broken? And blaming the Germans for the crisis. On the day Britain formally ratified the Maastricht Treaty, European unity has rarely looked more shaky. The currency crisis highlights just how far apart the interests of European states still are, how unlikely they are to merge under a treaty called Maastricht. George Wolfe, CTV News, London.
Well, today was back-to-school time for Quebec lawyers, notaries, even judges. Ralph Noseworthy explains.
The first class began at 7 o'clock this morning. The students, lawyers. The subject, Quebec's new civil code.
It is complicated because we have a lot of changes.
3,168 changes to be exact. The Quebec Bar Association has organized special courses for its members in 25 cities across Quebec.
It's a big training for our members, and we've put up 60 hours of courses for everybody, for the 15,000 lawyers in Quebec.
The classes are compulsory for all lawyers and notaries practicing in Quebec. The new civil code touches every aspect of Quebec society. Everything from floating mortgages to birth certificates no longer being issued by the church. That's now done through the courthouse. Many civil code articles have been eliminated. Hotels, for example, are no longer required to shelter and feed a client's horse.
Those kind of things that has been arranged so that the code reflects today's reality than instead of what used to be in the Quebec society 100 years ago.
The classes will continue until the 18th of December.
The judges, too, will have to adapt to the new code.
The judges will have to attend special classes in September. Quebec's new code goes into effect on January the 1st, 1994. Ralph Noseworthy, Pulse News.
Cynthia Drummond joins us now, live from the newsroom, with a look at some of the other stories we're covering today. Cynthia?
Thanks, Bill. Well, peace came to at least one part of Quebec's troubled airline industry today. Air Alliance pilots went back to work today. Service at Air Canada's regional airline had been interrupted by a 39-day strike by the airline's 106 pilots. Last Thursday, union and management came to a back-to-work agreement. Air Alliance officials say flights will be cut back for the next few days, allowing maintenance crews to safety check aircraft. Prime Minister Kim Campbell says 3 Quebec Tory candidates facing corruption charges will not be allowed to run for the Conservative Party. The 3 claim they're innocent and shouldn't be banned from running under the party banner. But Campbell says while they can run as independents if they wish, they'll have Tory candidates running against them. Montrealers are invited to visit Ile Notre Dame, where guided tours are now offered of the flower gardens. Created in 1980, the gardens covered 26 hectares in the heart of the island and were designed by some of the world's greatest landscape architects. A horticulturalist will accompany each tour, which lasts about an hour and a half. And all you have to do to reserve a spot on one of those tours is call the Société Ile Notre Dame. And the best part of all of this is the tours are free. Bill?
Thank you, Cynthia. You know, Canadians used to think of smog as a uniquely American problem. Apparently that is no longer the case. Air pollution is causing serious concern to governments and individuals across the country. A record number, move that forward if you will, Pierre, for me. Thank you. A record number. Here's Caroline Van Vlaardingen now with a look at this story. Back it up, right. On this week's Info Crime, police need your help to solve a sexual assault on a woman in Outremont.
Saturday, October 17th, around 7 in the evening, a woman was walking westbound on Ducharme Avenue in Outremont. As she passed McEachran Street, someone rushed onto the sidewalk, grabbed her from behind, pulled a dark-handled knife, and threatened to kill her. He forced her behind a nearby building at 69 Bates Road beside the railway tracks, where he sexually assaulted her. The man police are seeking is around 30 years old, 5 feet 9 inches tall and 160 pounds. He had acne and short brown hair long at the neckline. He has a prominent upper lip and at the time of the attack was missing an upper tooth. He spoke French and was dressed in jeans, a red jacket with black sleeves, a black coat, and a green, yellow, and beige plaid shirt. He wore sunglasses with a white frame and carried a black nylon bag with bright pink trim.
I'm Constable William Bumbry of the Montreal Urban Community Police Department. Infocrime will pay up to $1,000 for information leading to the arrest of any suspect. Should you have information concerning this crime or any other serious crime, do not hesitate. Call Infocrime at 393-1133, 393-1133. You need not reveal your identity. Infocrime is a community program. Please, call now.
Well, a record number of people attended this year's Comedy Festival. Over 630,000 people, in fact, took part in the street fun or the indoor shows by the time the final curtain came down on the 11th annual Just for Laughs Festival last night. Here's Caroline Van Vlaardingen with a quick look back now at 10 zany days and nights.
By tomorrow, the area around Saint-Denis will be back to normal. But long after all the props and stages are gone, there'll be echoes of laughter in the air.
What are you not laughing things at? And in the home of the brave. Yeah!
doing, dude?
Good, you?
Great. Good. You having a good time tonight?
Super.
Now, hold on a second. I got another call. Hello?
I dated one guy who said that if I broke up with him that he would kill himself, and I broke up with him, but he's not dead yet.
Oh yeah, actually these are new. I got these in Montreal. These are new in the shops. Octopus skin shoes. Yeah, look.
Oh, I can't talk to girls. I have one pickup line, you know? It's like, boy, you don't look so good. You better lay down.
Dudley Moore would be a bad choice.
I'm sorry, was I speeding? When that happens.
I'm losing my hair now. This is, I'm actually getting older. I can't take it. I'm losing my hair. Well, I'm not losing it. It's in my brush.
They got a new Barbie doll out now. Have you seen her? Totally hair Barbie. Oh, yeah, right. If it was really totally hair Barbie, we'd be seeing some hair under those totally stiff little arms, wouldn't we?
But I don't do stand-up. We'll think of something, you because they're paying a lot of money.
Can I ask you a question? Do you think I drink too much coffee?
Who I feel sorry for are those settlers. You know, the frontier women, they had to have kids to help out on the farm. That was their whole purpose in life, to have kids to help out on the farm. In fact, the bigger the farm, the more kids you had to have. Could you imagine these poor women? They'd be like, you just bought another 40 acres.
I saw Jurassic Park. The dinosaurs were exact. You know what I mean? You know, tell me that wouldn't, I mean, he would kill with that joke. If George Burns walked out and said that, oh, the place would go nuts.
Gracie, the love of my life. Gracie, the love of my life.
Thank you. Thank you. Now, this is no reflection on some of the comedians we just looked at, but the weather is unstable.
Unstable, yes. Tomorrow, not too bad. We have a chance of showers. We're back to real showery weather on Wednesday, and then better for the rest of the week.
We'll be back.
This is Rob Fald. Steve Shutt has decided to give up his career in broadcasting to become an assistant coach with the Canadians. Details coming up.
Change your life.
Well, quite a mixed bag of weather today with some nice sunny periods and then some thunder showers, cloudy skies, overcast. We've had it all, well, except snow, but let's face it, we're not going to get that today. We had a high of 26 degrees, which is right on the average for this date. A high of 34 in 1975, the warmest high, and a high of 17, the lowest high in 1950 for this date. And looking at our temperatures across the country, at 26 in St. John's, 21 in Charlottetown and Halifax, and St. John, New Brunswick, 24 in Quebec, 25 here earlier, 25 in Ottawa, and up to 28 in Toronto. Across the prairies, quite chilly in Winnipeg, just 17, 16 in Regina, 21 in Calgary, 20 in Edmonton, 23 in Vancouver. Not much cloud to see on our satellite shot in any of British Columbia or Alberta, just a few wisps of cloud there. A little bit of overcast in southern Saskatchewan, and we get a little more cloud into Manitoba and northern Ontario. Then we get less cloud rather in southern Ontario. We also get a big band of cloud here into southern Quebec and some cloud across the maritime provinces. Looking at the overall map, then you see a fair bit of cloud about to move into the U.S. East Coast, although they were clear there today for the most part. And of course, that is weather that's moving away from us. Accompanying that, some showers and quite a bit of thunder shower activity as well. We've had a few of those thunder showers rattling around our area this afternoon, and we could get one or two more this evening, although as the sun dies down, that's unlikely to be too severe a problem. That's accompanying a cold front. which is just crossing our area now. We'll get into the area between that cold front and another one tomorrow, and things will clear up a little bit. Still unstable low and a chance of some showers, and then another cold front comes through on Wednesday, and that will bring with it a greater chance of showers, and again, possibility of thunder showers. After that, though, things look pretty good for later in the week. After 2 cold fronts, temperatures will be down a little bit, but we will also have clearer skies. So for tonight, we have showers in the evening, but clearing overnight, and a low of 20 degrees. And for tomorrow, we're looking at fairly sunny skies with a high of 28 degrees, just a 30% chance of showers. For Wednesday, 28 degrees again, but more cloud and a 60% chance of showers. Low tonight, 20 degrees in the city, 28 for a high tomorrow, down to 16 in the Laurentians, high of 24, 18 at Sherbrooke, 26 the high, 18 and 26 in Quebec, and 19 and 27 in Ottawa. And looking further down the week, it looks now as if we'll have clear skies and somewhat cooler temperatures as we get towards the end of the week. Cool nights as well. Right now, Dorval's at 25, it's 26 at St. Hubert, 25 in Ottawa, 21 in Saint-Jovite, and 25 in Trois-Rivières. Quebec has 22, 24 in Sherbrooke, the same at Chicoutimi, and 17 in Baie-Comeau. Sunrise at 5:41, sets at 8:20, just a light breeze out of the southeast. The pressure is falling, humidity 74%. And currently we have partly cloudy skies, 26 degrees Celsius, that's 79 Fahrenheit. So keep that umbrella handy, Bill.